So the fool. When all we have is sea before us, the diving bell, fiction's words as he finds them, paraphrased as physical force given their isolation, dripping between the union of stars as if all leaves have sun and death together, doth but everything. Seaborne clouds obey horizons of relentless accuracy, grind and forage, a system of sunlight but differently blue, orbits of nest entangled itself beneath the broken window, gathered entropy of this coherent sense. The layers hold the weighted motion outward into existence, of archetypes wobbly from cracking, if contagious, taste and discard the twiggy things, hearing and whole, compel the frame to yield. Each Frigidaire, each constellation, open in ambulance behind his shoulder, this molting night who could not gather anything. The radio hums, Yaselva Oscura, defined where nothing incurred. How then black knives or leaves and where the prattle of ruin? Yet the passage sang to me my 43rd year of blighted moon, bright upon the forest cluster. And so they went, where polis hid their lonely trees, in sheltered breath, if cold can be so called. This is the part where nothing gleams, where mirrors frame, where chickens roost. This is the grain. This is the catalogued land. This is the part stretched wide to blame. You who enter here, the almost seen, the flashing ghost, where church bells pack the golden dawn in smaller rooms as something suffered on every side. Each night forgot to ask is drops of blood in the privacy of extinction whispered. For who is there in the empty cul-de-sac I've squandered, a trembling exfoliant of bones? For this your seed encircled, for this your television forgets how odd the autumn sun goes dark as dishes cleared. What bitter worm in fallen rag will search the abstract beast? My father said, without a cup we paddled through hourglass bays until we lit a hive of glass. Remember these darker woods descending, for all that greens our glassy face, and the knotted breaching of every surface the garden gate extracts its sleepy night. Gray in the nest, in the silt of seabirds landing, in the dream of chlorinated water, someone will answer the door in terrible nonsense. Where circumscribed trees won't grow, will whisper the drawbridge is falling. Anthem of subtraction in C released its binary act, in sequence after sequence, the frenzied salt of softer sound, what wider perceptions of walls and life therein as proof is rent with thorns. In the meantime, in the castle, before the heartless bride becomes, would you occasion, in poorly phrased, would you recur with wheel, with liver, with water, with urn, with rock, in Linden's captivity, ask this broken cup to answer an echo. The wooden mask and wetter scent of human form opens its diluvian petals. By waterside endure the grassy garment sway to me. If spellbound lungs despair their service door, then who are you, past side-eyed son of silhouette, but spinning fool? Before the silent night need only ask, where in the documented field, as chimney sweepers come to dust, am I a happy man? Okay, so, thank you. So that's The Fool. And the other poem that's completed from this book, this unnamed book. Yeah, so today I was thinking, the names for it just keep changing. Yeah, and today was, should this be called the Kingly Prick? But then I thought, maybe not. So, okay. And you'll see there were right, so there's this gathering, and we'll get to King Arthur again later, but King Arthur found his way, and his knights found his way back into that. So, okay, so another one. This one called Resonance. What else to ask, and who, when asked, will reply, I am outside. And once outside the carriage to be eaten, felonious and piratical, upon the Betty, endures it becomes to last as me. Bundled in transit, feet raised to the broom, from where you say what was before, let us not be confused together. Feet raised so the broom, from where you say, feet raised for the broom, from where you say what was before. Let us not be confused together. Besides, we cannot stay, knowing in its moment, exchanged on escalators, lacking nothing, nation of straight lines. Let me speak to you from an early draft, locked because the beyond is burning, blue dictionary closed to common good. You are expected, upon the mouth entranced, without insulation, its tint of digression. Am I hearing anything we share? Sedentary beings cut loose from context, encased their workings in concentration, in shadow, and this too emptied. A man-sized idioms, quotation marks of sight, we shh into balloons of speech, yellow instant before you speak, we guess. The printed shelter, said captain of trenches, cover your ears. There marks a slight pause. In its offering, immense in the great backyard, haunted for its naked way of speaking, of what did we build, and if my before has begun, in muddy remembrance, unwoven context, breathes the way he speaks, so near, the presence unhappily, and where do they go? Flaking objects touch her, even you take up the lost tongue of Adam, did not say, repeat the experiment, plank by plank, in vivid sensation, invent the pleasure of discovery. And then there was, hello, is it you? Who are not as crucial to mornings in the right order, and I at noon, an endless number, let's kill a chicken, the impertinence, the uncomfort, the way they remembered, the unhealthy tin trumpet, the optic glass, the vanished woods, the trees of clay and wattles, of air-controlled towers, of sweet coffin home, through mackerel-crowded seas, return, and slow firmament, a passage into doggerel, the weary spinning wheel, indifferent, king uncrowned, everyone in an asylum, catatonic beaches unfenced, a poet for every constellation, this metaphor of origins, condemned to local cohabitation, fractured soapbox to speak, there are no interruptions. Let there be something. Certain it was, a silver trout, a silver moon, the black hen flutters from this majesty of occasion, of non-existence, their lives licked lightly, repossess an ancient literalness, descend the uncreated usurper beyond post offices of the Cold War void, half-century of half-centaur-hearted poets and people, he said, connecting our belts, to whom we make our common ill, against the violent fence, their thorny dance, memorial glory, explain in tangled lines, commend his neck to unknown arts, ornamental shit, said my father, to the panorama of futility. Why don't we storm in floodplains of an empty poetic, tick headlong in the straining, and why not gestures along the land inflected come detached from the recording in place of panic, an inarticulate animal wove to radical amazement. This ridiculous person danced jealously where our softened bones cocoon and continue through monologue traversed, their coexistence dissolves between rose petal eyes, a field of stars that end in arms of mothers, unleaded before the concrete fruit stands merge to say, I love you. As biting bugs beneath the stars recall the missing eyes that put in you intention of boxcars. Bygone lights stop blinking, a fictional dreadnought exposed by subtitled lift, the background body rose. To short-winded washes of creosote home, return from bookshelves we passed, already in boats, ritualized to ask melancholic remainders to surface of sunset, of story. They had it, their clever minds turned the haunted room to joy, and little Saxon nouns, unstructured summer slides away before the crossing. A world of trees, among the hummingbird strangers, indigenous pieces of broken mirror, redoubled acts against the flora, gathered elements collectively perform the yellow light of little girls. In autumn, ship and bottle, in plastic C-string of letter, and empty space, the typographic men obtained in order and continued, tinged with idiom, unsure who of himself returns, embossed in glass discussion, the gripping walls, by syllabic pen, a lemon bread he'd buttered, seats and smaller things conceived, in blood diverged to sound, our murmur undone so many, and wet the etching shiver on certain lips, in lemon moon citations, approaching the great affirmation of airports, ambient waiters revolve in uniform consent, and so we captioned the corrupted backwater to match a puddled tune of open sea. A million miles away. Before the rarest eye can see, its media of air and water propelled the speckled grave, among them beats an ancient vocation, clusters of polis, heretofore unrealized autobiography, spoken plainly, the Pacific bottles, the Pacific plainly green, That is green reminds you of emotion and railroads and sentimental markets. A life lived, these winter objects formed the hours of others.